so much closer to being done, which wouldn't have made sense because we still have another like 6 weeks of school.
So the one that we're working on now is the one that was due that I'm catching up on was pick a classical painting in a monochromatic style, repaint it on your own paint. I'm actually really excited to do it because I love Monet, and I'm doing a Monet's Impression Sunrise, which is one of my favorite pieces ever.
I can't do impressionistic. We've talked about this before. I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
It gives me so much anxiety because the paint can go anywhere.
It can go anywhere.
It can go anywhere.
It can do whatever you want. That's what I love about it. And then the one that we're all working on currently that I'm doing in class is make your own painting, but it has to follow a specific color scheme that we've talked about, but it can be whatever you want. And so I did some thumbnail sketches today during class, did some charcoal sketches, did some thumbnail stuff, and I got my paper prepped, and then I sketched on my paper, and that was really all I had time to do. So
nice.
Excited.
It's good.
I've been wanting to do this painting for 2 years now, and I'm finally
you're actually gonna, so this is like a plan thing. You just, instead of coming up with a new idea, you were like, what is something that I've wanted to do?
Yeah, right. That's what you do, is what I've been wanting to do. This is my excuse to do it, and so I'm doing it now. So I have a really, really nice composition. I'm really excited to start it because I'm doing like a highway road. I'm actually drawing. I don't want to give away exactly where we are, but who fucking cares?
It's if they wanted to, it's so easy to find us.
There's a spot on the Beltway that I really like.
Yeah.
When you just round a corner, it's just, you're up a little bit higher than the rest of the road, and the rest of the road is just filled with street lamps. And I used to drive that at nighttime all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that spot is always stuck in my brain. It's like, I should paint this, and now I'm going to. I've kind of tinkered with how it looks in my memory because I wanted to add some interesting composition. So it's just like a highway, and you see 3 separate segments, and it goes up, then down, then up, then down, and then up and out. And it's super curvy. Like the pathway is very like swoopy, swooshy. I don't know how else to describe it in the audio format that people can understand.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sort of like an S curve with an extra butt on the S. I'm really excited to paint it because my professor was like, yeah, painting roads is really hard, but like you've done a really solid composition. And I was like,
oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's good. Yeah. Validation.
Yeah, it's nice to hear validation from a professional who paints like during class that you could watch.
Lord Jesus.
Right?
Oh my God.
Watching him paint and then looking down at your own and being like, I'm incompetent. I suck. Yeah. That's how it feels most of the time. But he's super supportive of everyone. And he's also, it's nice that you get to see his work because he's so brilliant at painting and at what he does. And then being able to like this guy's teaching me. Like the guy that's doing that is showing me how to do the things that he's doing. Mm-hmm. And it feels nice to be like, well, if I continue down this road, I can do that thing.
Do you want to paint?
Digitally, yes. Okay. But physically painting is also really fun. It's something that I've fallen in love with in the past semester and a half that I've started doing it. So this is Media for the Intellectually Impoverished. I'm Taylor.
I'm Randi.
And this is the podcast that
enriches your mediocre lives. You did it this week. You know, the past 2 episodes you have not been able to do.
I'm proud.
That's why you were stressed. That's why that whole segment was stressed, because you're like, man, I can't forget it. I can't forget it this time. Can't forget it.
Can't forget it.
Good job, man. What are we talking about today?
We judged a book by its cover, and we're going to talk about it.
That's it. No, so Cam came up with this idea about so long ago at this point.
Like December.
No, it was not December.
Oh yeah, it was.
No.
It
was maybe February. Because she made a whole list of things.
because she made it was the monthly schedule.
Yeah, and so it was back in February, and so we decided to schedule this way in advance because we knew that it would take us forever to actually read the book. First, we had to go find a book, and I feel like we meant to finish it in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and now it's been like a month and a half, and we've just kept pushing it down and down.
We were gonna record it right before spring break, and then we were like, no. Neither of us have read the book, so we pushed it past spring break, and then miraculously, we both finished it by the time it was due.
Yeah.
By both of us, I mean me. It was miraculous that I finished a book at all, but I did.
I thought you were going to make a joke that you finished the book before me.
I did finish the book before her, and that was like the crowning achievement. I've been rubbing that in her face for about 2-3 days, ever since I finished the book, because she was like, how far are you in the book? Expecting me to be like, I'm on page like 33.
Yep.
And I was like,
100%.
I'm 30 pages out. And she's like, what?
Because he passed me. There was a day when I called him, or he called me, and I asked him like how far he was, and he said that he was like 30 pages from the end, and he had just, or it was maybe more than that, 50 pages from the end, and he had just passed me. Like he was 5 pages ahead of where I was, and then I couldn't let that happen, but I was at work, so I couldn't catch up, and it wasn't fair.
Mm-hmm. I downed like, so but do you want to talk about the book?
Are we gonna talk about the book? Okay,
yeah.
I can show it on the camera if you're watching visually. For the audio people, the book is called My Best Friend's Exorcism.
I think I might even be able to put a photo up of it.
The cover, it looks, so we judge a book by its cover. We went to Barnes and Noble and we just walked around for
like 45 minutes.
A while.
We were there for a long time.
Yeah.
And we looked at every cover that caught our eye. We pulled some books out that had interesting titles and then looked at the covers. And
we did not read the back. We could not read the back. It was only choose it by its cover or the spine or
Yeah, we could not get any information on what the content of the book was. We were looking purely at the graphical designs of the cover, and I stumbled upon this book because it was on a display, and I was like, this is the most interesting cover I've seen in a long time. So the book, I think we said it's called My Best Friend's Exorcism, and the cover is reminiscent of old VHS tapes from like the 80s and 90s. If you lived in that time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're like 15 years old, go ask your parents.
Such an insult. Go ask your mom.
But it's made to look old and worn out, and it's reminiscent of like the B movies, the B horror movies of the 90s, and
it's like the really cringy 80s horror movies,
and the ones that you'd see at the rental store, and you'd be like, oh, I kind of want to watch this while drunk, and then you do that.
It's not like a horror like where you know you're gonna get scared. It's kind of like this. I'm gonna laugh at this. Like this is there might be some scary jump scares or something, but this is just to laugh at. And
so we looked at this, and we were choosing between this and then something by
The
Anomaly, and then something else by Anthony Horowitz. I don't remember what it was called. There was another one that was like a timey one.
That was The Anomaly. I know what you're talking about with Anthony Horowitz, and I can't remember. I think it was called like 21. I don't know.
Something like that. I made the call on this one because I'm like, we're not going to find a cover that's more like visibly interesting than this cover. The other cover was enticing, but it was not visually interesting.
But you can be okay. But to you, I think in this case, and we have to do this again. We're getting there. Okay, we got to build it up. Okay. The next time we do this, because we have to do it again, I'm choosing the book because I feel like you really like fought for this one.
I fought for this one. I think it looks interesting.
Do you want to try and describe the cover for those who are just purely listening?
Absolutely, I do. So, like I said, it looks like a VHS. In on the bottom, it says New York Times bestselling author Grady Hendrix, and it has like a little quote. But that's where typically you'd see like the director and like the film production company that did it. That's in that area. On the bottom left, there's a VHS stamp. On the bottom middle, there's the little tab that you'd see. That's like the person that boxed it or the productions that released it. On the top right, they've got stickers all over these things, like the old VHS tapes would be. So on the back, there's a staff pick sticker. On the front, there's a sticker that says a novel, which would typically be like it's the price sticker, as well as the Be Kind, Please Rewind sticker with a smiley face in the middle that actually has some blood on it. I don't know if you noticed that. It has a bloody thumbprint.
You really, okay. I did not pay attention that much to the cover. It looks interesting. So, God, get to what it is.
Yes, I know. I'm just giving the general idea. And the actual like meat of the cover, in the very top center, the focal point is a blonde girl with red eyes and a cross hanging upside down on her neck. To the left of her, on the top left, is an owl. Underneath that is a scene of a girl the same girl, it looks like, being attacked by ravens and birds. Underneath that, on the bottom left, is a shadow man like creeping through the woods. You just see a shadow. The bottom middle is 2 young girls skating around a roller skate rink with balloons. Bottom right is 3 girls on a boat. Right above that is a school. Above that is a bell tower with someone jumping off of it.
It was not until I got halfway through the book when I really took a good look at the cover, and that is literally the entire story on the cover.
Right there. And it's brilliant because when you look at it and you first see it, you're like, none of these things really look like they make sense. They don't have any connections. And then as you continue through the book, the pieces start to fall together and you're like, oh, that's this spot. Oh my God, it literally is the whole story on the cover. And yeah, and then on the backside, it's just got like a little blurb about the book that looks like it's a blurb about the movie. It's got actual like photographs that are supposed to be from the quote movie, but it's actually scenes from the book. Or bookmark fell out.
Don't touch my bookmark.
I'm sorry, it fell out. And then it's got this book packs all the magic of a summer horror flick, and so when we were judging it by the cover, it looks like
it's obviously the most interesting. It has the most going on, has the most colors compared to the other books that we were looking at, which were very simple, had a very like restricted color palette of only
minimalistic styles, just barely giving away anything. This took the approach of give them all of the bits
at once.
Just as long as you don't tell them how it happens, then they won't figure it out. It looks like a B-movie horror flick.
It does. And I did not have high hopes. As soon as we got back in the car and we read the back of it, I was like, it's not going to be good. It's going to be hard to get through. It's going to be really cringy. It's going to just be not going to be good.
But we were pleasantly surprised.
It's really good, actually.
It's so
really good.
It felt like it knew what it was the entire way through.
No, yeah. It was,
like all the chapter titles are named after like 80s songs.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
I did not get that at all.
Yeah, they're all 80s songs, like New Sensation, Total Eclipse of the Heart, Party All the Time. It's just like classic 80s and I think maybe late 70s, early 80s, late 80s, early 90s stuff. But it's just old music, and this is the name of every chapter, and it actually kind of gives you an insight about what's going to happen in the chapter. There's one that's 8675309.
What?
Yeah,
no, there's not.
There totally is. It's the one where she calls what's his face, and then what's her face picks up instead.
Wow, you don't remember their names?
No, I remember their names. I don't want to give away the plot. We haven't talked plot yet.
Okay.
It's a secret until we get it away.
Just wait another 10 minutes and just tell you.
Yeah, or maybe we'll skip from here straight into the middle of us talking.
It tells the story of Abby Rivers and Gretchen Lang. Abby, when she's older, the book starts with her older and then reminiscing on their time together. And the story starts from them being kids when they first met, and it goes all the way through up, mainly through their like high school.
Yeah, it kind of, the story itself, like the meat of the story takes place in high school, but it tells a lot of the story of like when they were kids and then up to high school.
That's a good chunk of the book. That's like a good half of the book is just establishing them as characters and their friendship.
And their friendship and all the things that made the friendship so impactful. And there are even spots in the middle of like the actual story where it jumps back into the past and tells stories of how they were friends and what happened when they were friends. So these two girls, Abby and Gretchen, are best friends, and they get into high school and they're like, we're gonna have a perfect high school career. Abby's parents are really poor, and they're going. Both of them are going to a really upstate, like rich Catholic school, and Gretchen's parents are part of the rich people.
Did they ever say Catholic school?
Yeah, it's a Catholic school. They have a teacher that's a father.
I know, but also I guess you're right. I don't think it was ever explicitly stated that it was.
I think it was early on.
Catholic church. I think I just saw the word Baptist. I could have been wrong. Anyways, that makes so much more sense if it was Catholic.
At the Catholic school, it's them two who are best friends, and then they'd met two other girls.
Did you catch that? Like Margaret, she was the one who was mean to her in like 4th grade.
Yeah.
And then she's best friends with her in high school.
Isn't that how it happens, though?
No,
I don't know. Maybe not.
No, we hold grudges. Girls hold grudges. If you were mean to me in 5th grade, I am not your friend. There
was two more girls, Margaret and Glee. And then Margaret's boyfriend Wallace, who's a huge dick face.
Oh Lord, Jesus, somebody.
So the story really starts with the four of them out at Margaret's beach house, right? Lake house.
They have so many houses.
They have Margaret's lake house, and they the four of them decide they want to take LSD, and they take a tablet. All four of them take a tablet, and nothing's happening. And then they all get insanely high. And Gretchen,
none of them get high. No, that's the thing is like none of them, like they're sitting there waiting for something to happen and nothing ever happens, but they start pretending and they're like, oh, did you see that? Like trying to say that they're high, but they're not really.
I must have missed that.
Yes.
So the four of them are sitting there not high.
Except for Gretchen,
who gets crazy high,
yes.
throws off all of her clothes, and goes running and skinny dips into the lake, but gets swept out by an upstream and is taken out into the forest, and they can't find her. So the four of them spend the entire night looking for her, and then she shows up back in the morning. She's disheveled, she's gross, and she's like coming down from the high, and she's freaking out. Abby takes her home, and from that point on, Gretchen starts to change.
Yes. She continuously gets worse and worse and worse. Her health, her appearance, everything goes downhill. She's becoming more antisocial, not talking to anybody, not talking to any of her best friends anymore. She becomes suicidal.
Yeah, she becomes, like, she starts hurting herself. She starts cutting her arms. And her parents are taking her to doctors because, like, strange things, they're hearing strange things, weird things are happening. She says that she feels touches on the back of her neck and all across her body, and she hears voices all the time.
There was a lot of things in here that I was like, this is a new fear of mine. I didn't know
didn't
that
need it.
This is now my fear.
Some of the later book stuff, terrible
yeah,
fear.
Oh my God.
And the things start to slowly amp up until a breaking point when Gretchen comes over. Abby comes over to Gretchen's place after Gretchen had been grounded or something during a book club night with Gretchen's parents.
That is not the climax.
That's not the climax.
But okay.
This is the first turning point before things start getting crazy.
Okay.
The climax of the book is so much better. So the first turning point is
spoiler alerts.
Yeah. Duh. How are we going to review a book without spoiling?
Without telling you what the book's about.
We see Abby go over to the house. Gretchen's crazy. She's off the wall. She's talking about really strange things, and nothing really makes sense to Abby. At some point, Abby decides, I just kind of want to go home. And so she leaves, and as she's leaving, she sees Gretchen at the top of the stairs, starts singing a song by, I'm not sure who. But it was some song. Gretchen's parents are extremely religious, and the song was like, it was probably Madonna or something.
Something like that. It was, to them, like satanic.
Yeah, something like sexual and saucy. And she starts singing at the top of her lungs, and her parents are like, stop that. And there's a bunch of people downstairs that are at the book club that are all like wine drunk.
They're all freaking out at this point.
And they're freaking out at this point because she's singing, she won't stop. And Gretchen's dad goes up to the top to stop her. And suddenly he's like thrown down the stairs by what Abby thinks is Gretchen pushing her. Him. Then it gets really quiet. And then you hear thwap. And then a bird falls down from the glass. And then suddenly there's like hundreds and hundreds of birds and seagulls all flying into the building, surrounding her and attacking Gretchen, attacking the other people. And then after they all fall and die, owls come in and begin eating all of the dead birds. And that's the first major turning point. And then after that point, Gretchen kind of doesn't come to school for a little while. And then starts to really change and start to be like really viscerally mean to Abby.
Yes.
And then at a breaking point in their friendship, Abby declares, we're no longer friends. I'm the only person that's trusted you from this far, because she starts being really mean to all of her friends.
Okay.
And Abby's like, I'm not your friend anymore. You just lost the only person left in your life that was fighting for you. After that point, Gretchen is suddenly better. Out of nowhere.
That's what I was talking. That is the major.
This
turning
is the
point.
major turning point when shit starts
their
going
friendship
crazy.
has broken, and now somehow the next day Gretchen is completely fine, better than fine. She's like glowing now. All her skin is perfect. Her hair is perfect. She's wearing these new, fresh, like styled clothes. Everybody has fallen back in love with her because before everyone had isolated, like completely kicked her out. Abby was really the only person still talking to her. Comes in the next day and it's just changed. How did everybody in their right mind suddenly change their opinion on Gretchen? I don't know. I don't know how that happened, but it did.
But suddenly everyone was flocking to Gretchen. She was, like you said, beautiful, and is now best friends with Margaret and Glee again. And
Abby is now the outsider.
Is the outsider because Abby had thought that Gretchen was being raped by Wallace, Margaret's boyfriend. Sorry, all the names must be getting a little confusing by this point. And Margaret freaked out. She's like, you're not our friend anymore. You're a terrible person. Go away. And then Gretchen gets better, and she's now friends with Margaret and Glee, and leaving Abby behind. And Abby's sort of left like on the sidelines. And during this time, this is when all of the seeds are starting to be planted for the eventual climax. You see in scenes where Abby is sitting at the edge of a picnic table and the other 3 girls are sitting at the other end of the picnic table. And they are, it's like one of those long picnic tables, I think. And Gretchen is now sort of giving things and like sowing these seeds for the eventual climax, because she's giving Margaret this new dietary supplement that's like, you're gonna lose so much weight, you're gonna be the most beautiful person.
Yeah.
And because Margaret was always super conscientious of like her weight and the way that she looked, and she always felt that she was a little too fat. And then Gretchen gives her these things, and then within a week she's like beautiful. She's like the best she's ever looked. Her mom is so proud of her.
That's what's so sad. That was like reading that was so sad that like she's losing weight, and everybody, her mom, her dad, the teachers, the friends, everybody's like, you look so good, you're doing so great, like look at you losing the weight. Hurts.
And then she's giving Glee letters from one of the teachers that Glee has a crush on.
You don't know that.
You don't know that for sure.
But
it's very heavily hinted at in the first half. At least I picked up on it.
Okay.
And then she's suddenly going to like mass
all
every
the time.
single day at lunch to go hang out with this teacher. And then as the story continues, Abby thinks that maybe she's possessed when a group of like really burly Christian dudes come to a burly Christian dude show.
See, that's the only thing that's why I don't think it's Catholic, because that would never happen at a Catholic school.
I don't know. It's the 80s Catholic school.
I guess Catholic school is different back then.
Yeah. These really burly Christian dudes come and they put on this burly Christian dude show that's like, do you believe in Jesus? Jesus is our strength. And they lift a heavy cross. And one of the dudes looks at Gretchen and specifically mentions that she is possessed by a demon. She has a shadow hanging over her. And then Abby, at that point, something clicks and she's like, maybe she's possessed. Maybe she's possessed. And so she starts following this trail and attempts to get she's trying to get the dude that looked at Gretchen.
Yes, Chris Lemons.
Yeah, and she's trying to get him to come back and like help her with this situation.
Yeah.
And she's dealing with all these things. And suddenly she notices that Margaret's no longer coming to school and Glee is kind of going crazy. So we kind of skip forward past a weekend at this point after that chapter.
So everything, it's after Halloween is when everything goes downhill. And that's when we start to see what's come of these little seeds that have been planted.
Little seeds that have been sown. And the first thing that happens or that we see is Abby gets called into the principal's office and is blamed for giving children alcohol and for selling drugs, because this entire time, all of the faculty and advisors have thought that Abby, because she's poor, is the reason that all these bad things are happening. She's becoming this scapegoat. She goes outside after that interaction and she looks up at the bell tower and she sees like papers floating down, and these papers, she picks one up and it's a letter that was written supposedly from the teacher, Father Morgan. Yeah, Father Morgan, is a love letter professing his love to someone. And she looks at the top of the tower and she sees someone that's getting ready to jump. So she races up there and suddenly the person is grabbed before they jump off. And it's the teacher, Father Morgan, grabbing her old friend Glee, who is currently just drunk off her ass.
And half naked
with like writing on her chest. And she's like screaming about how she loves this teacher. And the teacher's like, I don't know.
I have no idea what's going on.
Abby's like, Gretchen did this.
Yeah.
Gretchen did this.
Because she was the one who was giving her letters every day to like go to mass, to go to that's what she did at lunch.
And so that's the first thing that happens. And then right after that, she goes to visit Margaret like a day or two later, because Margaret's really sick. And she's like, well,
she needs help. And she thinks that because Margaret's been out of school for so long that she must be better now. And so she can't do it alone. Margaret's going to help her.
And this is my personal.
This is the worst.
This is the worst scene in the entire book.
No, it's not. No, but it's a really bad one.
It was my least favorite. This is the one that made me out loud go, oh my God.
I cried later in the book when, we'll get there, but I cried.
How long are we at? We're at 20 minutes.
I know, we got to get through. You're telling every detail, and we just got to get the idea out there.
Yes. So she goes to see Margaret. And Margaret has been diagnosed with anorexia. She gets to go to Margaret. She's like, I have some food here. She gives Margaret the ice cream, and then Margaret's like, I can't. And then she pulls the covers back. She's about to throw up. And she sees that she's got like a huge belly.
That's hard as a rock.
Hard as a rock. And she starts screaming in pain, and she coughs. And then out of the back of her throat is this like white tube. And it starts making its way out of her mouth and looking around. And Abby realizes later Margaret has been fed tapeworms.
Like, that's all she's been drinking. The milkshakes that Gretchen was giving her was just
protein shakes.
Yeah, was just tapeworms.
Yeah, and so for people who don't know, back in the 80s, this was an actual thing.
This still happens today.
It happens today, but it's like people look down on it. Back then, it was like a big thing. Okay. So what you do is you'd order in the paper like a protein shake, and at first they didn't tell you what was in it, but then now they have to. You'd order this protein shake, and then you drink one of these shakes, and then for like 2 weeks, you lose all the weight you could imagine. And then once you've hit your desired weight, you drink the second shake, and that shake would end the cycle, and you begin gaining weight again. So what the first shake was tapeworm eggs. You drink the tapeworm eggs, they'd hatch in your stomach and feed. So whenever you'd eat, you'd lose the weight because you're not getting any nutrients. You're not getting any nutrients. They'd be getting the nutrients. The second drink was to kill the tapeworms off, and then you pass them at your desired weight. This was an actual thing that really did happen, and
still happens
today. But Margaret was fed only the eggs for like months,
days, like weeks.
Yeah, it was like a month or two. That's all she had was tapeworm eggs, and so it describes some of the. Did you find the page?
Yes, I did, because we passed where the birds. So that's the thing that. We're gonna have to start doubling up because just the time, but I know you want to get through every detail because that's what makes this book so good. Is it's so detailed, and the imagery is phenomenal.
Oh my god!
I could not every time the dialogue is so beautiful, and the sayings that Abby says, they're so profound. But I found the section that you're talking about. And I don't know.
It's not this page. It's the next one.
It is this page. Something began slithering out.
Yeah, the next page is the one I want to talk about.
You want to talk about? So, do you want to find the section?
Yeah, I'll find the section.
You're already talking so much. You might as well keep talking.
Sorry. Do you want to talk?
No, you can go ahead. You're excited.
I'm excited. I liked the book.
You need to read more.
I do. So the part that I want to read, there's two paragraphs that I want to read. So the first one is. As soon as Abby notices the tapeworm, it says, it slid over the root of Margaret's tongue, and then Margaret gave 3 explosive throat-clearing coughs, each one pushing it out farther. It was sticky, gelatinous, and alive, a blind white worm thick as a garden hose, and it was hauling itself out of Margaret's stomach with single-minded intent.
I needed thick as a garden hose.
Thick as a garden hose. And then later in the page, when they find out what it was, they found 23 pounds of tapeworm in Margaret's stomach. The longest measured 33 feet. Isn't that insane?
Holy crap.
Isn't that insane?
My new fear.
It's terrifying. Terrifying imagery. And that was, for me, the scariest part of the entire book. Everything after that, I was like,
you got a food thing though, so like I can. That's why it's most terrifying for you.
Yeah, good God, that was just spooky, and it's written extremely well. But like when you go into the book, you're not expecting. Like when we were looking at the cover, we weren't expecting such terrifying moments. But the author, what's the name of the author? Look at the front of the book.
Grady Hendrix.
Grady Hendrix, like it delivers. And out of nowhere, because like we said, the first half of the book.
It's real cheesy. It's real just like slice of life, kind of like this. They're best friends. They do everything together. They'll die for each other. They're just little kids. And I love that because that was like what it was like to be a kid. He did such a good job writing what it was like to be a little kid. Mm-hmm. And the things you say, the way that you think about your parents and that you think you know what's best for you and you really don't. And then it's so, it's not cringy, but it's so like cheesy. And then to have that last half of the book with this like horrifying, no, you don't expect this like terrifying, like, especially not with like, it's supposed to be a cheesy 80s movie. It's supposed to be cheesy.
And that moment in particular is the first moment that is viscerally terrifying to me. Like it was be without a shadow of a doubt, like just an utterly disturbing read, a grotesque experience that I wish I had seen more often in stories like this, because it comes out of left field, but if you look back at the rest of the story, all of the seeds are sown. Yes. They're all in there, and there's little tidbits like
it's just disgusting.
It's so gross,
so gross,
so grody.
I'm sorry for anybody who's like who doesn't like any of this. I'm sorry. We should have warned you. I wanted to read this because this was very disturbing. This is the end of the chapter that Tayler was just reading. So they're talking about, like, she didn't know that she'd consumed this much, like, tapeworm eggs. And it says, but they couldn't ask Margaret anything because she'd been sedated the moment she arrived at the hospital. It was the only way to make her stop screaming. That's what terrified me. Mm-hmm. To be in so much pain, you can just scream. Like, that's it.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And then it just continues to ramp up. Like, it gets worse and worse.
It doesn't get any better.
It does not get better until the denouement. And that's like and that's like 60 pages away. So it's so you think that's bad. The next part's even worse. The next part's even worse. And the next part's even worse. Until finally it's all resolved at the end, and then you're like, ugh.
Are we gonna say what happens? Because we're gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I don't care what you think anymore.
Say it by all means.
So she's actually possessed. And I was wondering if they were going to do it or not, or because it's an 80s like cheesy movie, if they were just going to be like, it's puberty, you know, if they were just going to like.
I was really worried on the chapter when they started the exorcism, right? That it was just going to end up being, no, she just went crazy.
Yeah, that she's like, it's mental illness. Yeah. Like she's not actually possessed. And that guy was so creepy.
Oh, it was great. Such a great character. It's terrifyingly dumb. So the character Christian is the exorcist. We mostly see him mentioned as the exorcist and not as his actual name, to reinstate the fact that you're remembering this story.
Yes. Don't forget the fact that she's possessed. This is the guy that's going to help.
Yeah, this is the guy that's going to help. He is just a bumbling, like 7 foot, 300-pound idiot who has a white van, and then in the back he's like, I didn't know if you were gonna. When they first met up, like she was like, hey, my friend's possessed. I think she's possessed. I need your help. They meet up. And he's like, I wasn't sure if you were going to bring her today. So he leads her to the back of the car. And in the back of his windowless white van is like three rolls of duct tape and like a straight jacket and like handcuffs and all this random.
This man is so ignorant. He does not realize what he's doing. He's just taken a child to his white van, and there's just bags of just rope and handcuffs and oh my god.
And then as it goes on,
and he keeps like unintentionally making like sex jokes.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm trying not to make sex jokes. He's trying to keep it so it's not sexual, but whenever he mentions the fact that something would be sexual, you're like, well, now I'm thinking about it being sexual. Yeah, so
thank you for that.
And he gives her like a date rape drug to knock out Gretchen. It's so bad. It's so bad. So the rest of the story kind of summed up is she meets the exorcist. She calls him up and she's like, let's do this. He gives her a date rape drug. She goes to put the drug in Gretchen's drink while her parents are out of town. Gretchen realizes she's there, leads her up to her room, and then shoots her dog with a revolver.
I cried. Because I knew it was going to happen.
I knew it as soon as there was a dog
As soon as she walked in the house and good dog Max, whatever his name was. As soon as he came up to Abby and started barking, I was like, no, not the dog. Please, not the dog. I'm going to cry now because oh my God.
Yeah, she leads him up and it's this huge event and it's written in such a tense and intense way. Gretchen is like, has a gun. He's like, you're going to sit there and you're going to watch this and then I'm going to kill you. Because after I do that, then I can kill everyone else, and then I can ruin Gretchen's life or ruin my life or whatever. And then after that, I'm
glad that was like the climax. That it hurt, but that was the highest point. Like, we can't go back from here, man. You've killed
the dog.
The dog. The only higher thing you could do is kill a human. But this is the highest, and then they refer to him for the rest
of the story as good dog Max.
As good dog Max, and they keep bringing him up, and at the end, Gretchen's like, I That's the one thing that like I hate the most, that like I did that and like she's like, you didn't do it, but I was like, yes, I did do it. It's, this hurts my heart.
Mm. Then she passes out. Then the exorcist comes by and they take her to a beach house and they strap her to a bed and begin the exorcism. And the exorcist is like becoming increasingly more violent. And they finally drag out the fact that there's a demon inside of Gretchen. And at that point, they like shit hits the wall. And the exorcist is like, I gotta go call my dad because his dad is like
dips.
Yeah. And then he leaves and does not come back.
Nope.
Abby's like, well, I gotta do this myself now. And so she begins an exorcism. And this is the point when I was like, it's cheesy.
This is the 80s movie that I was expecting.
Yeah. Because then instead of like swearing on the Bible, she swears on like 80s pop icons like Phil Collins and stuff.
What was it about Phil Collins?
I don't know. I was
going to ask you about that because I love Phil Collins. Don't get me wrong, but that's literally like half the story is like just referencing Phil Collins. Was that a big thing in the 80s? Like,
I don't know. Phil Collins is good.
I mean, I know I'm not saying that he's not good, but to be referenced this much, like, was he the number one, like, who's like Harry Styles in today's world?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't alive back then, so I'm not sure.
I thought maybe you knew. You seem to know other stuff about the 80s.
I don't know everything. I was not around in the 80s.
You knew that every chapter was an 80s song.
Well, because that's like obvious. I mean, like all it took was 3 of them to be like, oh, those are songs that I know from the 80s for me to be like, oh, they must all be 80s, like process of elimination kind of thing.
Well, you know more 80s songs than me. It's like somebody's calling me.
Oh no.
I think it's right around here. Should I answer?
Yes, absolutely.
So find your section. Hello? Yes? No, I'm currently recording the podcast. Say hi.
Hi, Jay.
What's up, man?
Not much. I thought you all recorded on Mondays.
Yeah, but we had Chris's thing yesterday.
You know what? You're so right. I was there at that thing.
You were. I don't think it's picking him up.
Y'all enjoy recording for the podcast.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Did you find what you wanted? Okay.
So, she starts like rebuking the devil in the name of like things that were important to her and Gretchen. So she's like, by the power of Phil Collins, I rebuke you. By the sacred strength of my sweet Audrina and forever, I deny and rebuke you. Andrus, the name of the demon.
Andreas. I thought it was Andreas.
Andrus.
Is it Andrus?
Andrus.
I was saying Andreas in my head the entire time.
Andrus. And all sorts of stuff. And then finally the demon's like, no, 80s nostalgia has killed me.
No. The power of friendship. I wrote that. That is like the top of the chapter, I think, at the end of it. I wrote the power of friendship. Where is it? By the power of friendship.
But yeah, and that's the cheesiest part of the whole story. I'm like, if this is the only cheesy part, the rest of the book makes up for it.
The ending makes up for it. Mm-hmm. I think so.
The story then resumes sort of like as you speed through the rest of the two of their lives.
Yeah. And now they're suddenly married, they're suddenly like adults, and they're slowly losing contact over time. Like they go to different colleges, they get married, but they still in each other's life for the important moments. Yeah. Which I loved. Is like when they got married or when there was a divorce or when a parent died or something, they were always like there for each other. Yeah, they were always there. And it was I think she mentioned it's like we drifted apart not because we weren't friends, but because we had more like important things to focus on or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's like you just dropped telling the minutia of one day, right? You didn't tell her one thing. There was no falling out, no great tragedy, just 100,000 trivial moments they didn't share, each one an inch of distance between them, and eventually those inches added up to miles. But then they talk about the bigger moments being there for like weddings or divorces and things like that, and it says when those things happened, they learned that although those inches may add up to miles, sometimes those miles were only inches after all. So
really
that's so profound. It's so, right? For this, like, supposed to be cheesy 80s, terrible, like, jump scare movie, cringy friendship and the power of friendship, to have those such profound, like, real life moments. That's what happens. You just drift away from people. Mm. Oh, man.
Oh, it was such a good book. I mean, I really recommend, even though we've kind of spoiled a lot of this story.
Oh, you're not going to read it. No, I was just thinking that we got halfway through the book and I was like, we shouldn't have, but we did. And it's too late. Mm-hmm. But nobody's going to read it now because we literally spoiled everything. Mm-hmm. But it's really beautiful. It is. The writing, it's so easy. like I was expecting it to be really hard to get through. We were trying to find a book that was like less than 300 pages, and we ended up getting a 300-page book anyways. But you like plow through it because it's easy. It's like watching a movie. It really is.
I mean, I plowed through probably 200 of the pages in like 6 hours.
Yeah,
because I had nothing to do, and I was like, I'm gonna read the book, and then I beat Randy.
Look, man, I had to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what? So what? You could have read it. You could have read it before work, but you didn't.
I did.
And then I read the entire thing.
Stop with that smug ass look. Just stop it. No. How many books have you read this year?
Do manga count?
No. You read one book. I've read 4 books.
It's not a competition.
Catch up,
Randy.
scrub.
Maybe it's not a competition when
it
I
is.
lose.
When I lose. No, only Randy can win.
We judged a book by its cover. Did it live up to the cover?
100%. It was better than the cover.
Really?
I think because what I was with this cover, and that's why I didn't want to choose it, was because it looked so cheesy, and I thought it was going to be a bad book. It was going to be cringy. They were going to try and do like 80s nostalgia, and it wasn't going to work. It was going to be still like too modern, or it was just, we weren't going to be able to relate to it in any ways, because all of the references, clearly some of the references still went over my head. But you got a lot of them, and it is the story of like friendship and like life. And so everybody can relate to those two things. Like having a best friend growing up and slowly like drifting apart from them. I know I have a friend who I was going to name, but I won't name because she probably doesn't want her name out there. I have known her since I was younger than them, since I was 4 years old, and I still talk to her on a daily basis. Because on Snapchat, it's easy to just send someone like a message real quick, and then you respond, and you maybe talk for 5 minutes, but that's about it. I still talk to her every day, but we don't have what we used to have. Doesn't mean we're not still friends. She actually posted on her Instagram story the other day, like drop, the things that they do, and it's like, drop a picture of your best friend or whatever. She posted a picture of me, and I was like, oh, I'm still your best friend.
Oh my God.
But that's, life happens. She's now married. She lives up in Spring, really far away.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a kid. And so she's living a completely different life than me. But we like still talk every day.
Yeah. And that's just the nature of life. And this book really encapsulates that. And then the ending, it's very, very like healthy, tear-breaking and tear-jerking ending. Because they're best friends till the end. Yeah. And they weren't sure if that was going to happen. But it did. And then that and the whole story revolves around their friendship and how that was important to each other and why friendships, even against all odds, are important. And if someone is important to you, then you should fight for them.
Because of Abby fought so hard for Gretchen in like this weird time of need of being possessed. But because of that act of kindness, because of that trust and determination and the power of friendship, Gretchen was then there for Abby through the rest of her life, like through because Abby had a lot worse later in life. Mm-hmm. But she was always there, and I feel like they never say it, but that's what the underlying thing is. I think Gretchen was like trying to make up for that time, like because she was so bad, and Abby had every right to leave her and not like associate with her whatsoever, and she didn't. So Gretchen's like, I am forever in your debt,
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
It was a great story, and I really, really want to do an episode like this again.
Okay, we're not going to get that. How much more time do we have? I guess not much. The other thing that I really liked was the callbacks. Especially because, like I said, the beginning, it's very like they're children, and as well as they do like what it's like to be a kid and all the nuances that come with that. I mean, I'm closer to being a kid than other people. But I could relate in that sense, and I think they got what it was like to be a child. But it wouldn't have been worth it had they not done all of those callbacks, because they really established like the love for E.T., the love for Phil Collins, the like ice cream, like all of these different things. And then had they completely just left that out in the last half and just made it all like purely horror, purely like exorcism.
Yeah, and then just dropped all of that
Dropped all of that like character like development and those little nuances, then I don't think it would have landed as well. But I liked the callbacks. Especially there's one part, and I think it's like the second to last chapter, when they finally bring up E.T. again.
Mhm.
E.T. was like the big thing at the first half of the book is that Abby was obsessed with E.T.
Mhm.
And then we never got it again until the second to last chapter.
Yep.
But it's those callbacks. I think that's just what rounds out the whole story.
Yeah, I mean, it brought it back to its roots. It reminded you of like how far they've come as friends. They've been friends for pretty much forever, and what that meant to them was important.
Maybe the audience should choose what we read next.
Maybe for the final one, we have the audience choose. It's my favorite. It's your favorite. It's the audience's favorite.
Then they could, if they wanted to, they could read along with us.
That's true. That's true.
They give them a hard date and be like, finish the book by here, and then we'll talk about our thoughts. No, maybe
We should do that. We should.
Yeah. Okay.
We should. But I say we do the one that you want, and then
we'll do that one.
Then we do that one.
Okay, cool. If that's what you want to do.
Books are pretty good. Maybe if I pick another one, we'll read a manga.
You can't do manga because it'd be like picking a comic because it's so short. Like you'd need
Not all of them.
But aren't there like chapters to like manga? Like I know there's like you have the individual like
I have a couple. I mean, I've read them already, but there are like standalones of manga that are just like graphic novels, basically.
Okay.
I could pick a graphic novel. We'll see. This was really, really fun. I really enjoyed reading the book more than I thought I would.
I hope it was interesting to listen to us just kind of
ramble
and retell the story. It is really good, and if you are I definitely read it if you want. I'm not going to force you because we did give a lot of it away, but the writing is really good.
Thank you so much for joining us on this intellectual journey, and we will catch you guys in the next one.
Bye-bye.
I still can't get over that's the coolest cover, and it was a good book.
And it was a good book. It doesn't make any sense.
Don't break everything.
Don't break the set.
No. Media for the Intellectually Impoverished is a Medialite production, edited by Tayler Smith.
And produced by Miranda Randy Zaves.
Follow us on social media at NFTII Podcast.
Or email us at mftiipodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening.